Good afternoon. How is everyone? I was told that we were sitting in front of a group of senators, except they're all from HR, so, it's great to see you all. My name is Paris Alston. I am co-host of Morning Edition on GBH 89.7, which is one of Boston's NPR stations. And I'm really grateful to all of our panelists, as well as from day one and all of you, for welcoming me into your space, but also for being here. So give yourselves a round of applause. So I'm going to go down the line here with our lovely panelists who are each, I'm going to ask you each to introduce yourselves, tell us your name, what you do, and if you could also start with an icebreaker by answering the question of what you do to maintain your own well-being as you do all of this amazing work.
Sure. Well, hi everyone, it's an honor to be here. I am the non-expert, the non-HR person who is in social impact, but loves to work very, very closely with the HR and DEI folks at my company. My name's Barb Short, and I am the Senior Director of Corporate Social Responsibility Engagement. And I would say what I do are two different things. One are daily tweaks, but I think I also look for immersion, where I'm really taking myself into a space of disconnect and a little more of a deeply inward thing. So I've done things like Akashic soul readings and that kind of thing to just ground me in who I am when I go through my life.
Wonderful. Hi everyone, Aravind Menon. I'm the Senior Director for Human Resources for Procter & Gamble. I'm based here in Boston, part of one of the 6 divisions of Procter & Gamble called the Global Grooming Division. Grooming makes brands that you know, Gillette, Venus, Braun. Hope you're all using those brands. But in terms of what I do for well-being, meditation's important. HR, meditation's important. You kind of need some time, to relax. I also have a family. I have 2 kids. A lot of good times with them. So they have sports and fun. And then I did the best thing I did ever, which was 18 years ago. I got married to my wife, who's a therapist. So that's a great way to solve the mental health issue. But anyway, that's me.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm John Harold. I lead the sales and customer success team for SoFi at Work. If you're not familiar with SoFi at Work, we work with over 1,100 organizations to offer student debt and financial well-being benefits to help them attract and retain top talent. For me personally, 2 months ago, I did a social media purge, so I'm 60 days clean.
That's impressive.
And beyond that, just try to live a balanced life, eat healthy 5 to 6 days with a few cheat days, save and invest my money while also splurging on a vacation, keeping it balanced.
Nice. Hi everyone, I'm Patel. I lead total rewards at Moderna. I think my number one tool for my well-being is at least 8 hours sleep a night. So I'm very boring, and I'm in bed by 9 p.m. most nights.
That's good. I get you beat by like 2 hours, because I usually get up. Not this morning, at 2:30 to go host this morning show. So I go to bed by 7. Sometimes I do cheat the bedtime, but whenever I think about it, I'm going to think about you. I need 8 hours of sleep. So Hem, I'm actually going to come back and start with you to tell us a little bit about how you stay in communication with your employees to assess what benefits they really value to make their work-life balanced. And how do you make sure that that's staying up to date?
Sure. So it's funny, actually, at Moderna, we tend not to use the term work-life balance. Our CEO actually talks about the concept of work-life integration. Because the concept, it's not always balanced. And so fortunately I have great team members like Jeff sat in the back there who really provides great data in terms of utilization. So I think that's one helpful input in terms of how much people are using the programs we've provided, but I think also just listening. So we do a ton of, whether it be focus groups or surveys or whatever it may be, that yes, the utilization data is kind of helpful, but I think really hearing from people in terms of what they value and how they value different things relative to others. And I think particularly as your demographic evolves and changes, and ours has changed hugely. In 3 to 4 years, we've gone from 1,500 employees to over 5,000. And so if we're not constantly listening to see what's valued by different demographics and different geographies, I think we'd be providing things that our 1,500 employee population wanted, but that's not what our 5,500 employee population wants. So it's really about just making sure you continue to listen.
Making it scalable, as we all want to do in our work. And Aravind, what about at P&G? Is it similar to what him is describing, or a little different?
On the usage, very similar. I'd say the quantitative and qualitative analytics will tell you how and what people are using and what benefits. But on the qualitative side, I mean, it's a great question, right? I mean, what do people value in benefits? We have operations around the world, so asking someone who has a family in the United States what's important to them is going to be very different than what someone in India is going to say. A lot of our folks in the US these days are asking a lot about things like adoption, surrogacy, elder care, benefits like that, other things like that. Versus in India, the main question we've gotten is, can you cover my parents in healthcare? Because culturally, that's what they're expected to do. They're expected to, that's a very extended family. So we've got to be able to, what's a benefit for one isn't a benefit for another. Our Boston office here, we've got free parking. People think that's a big benefit here, right? In Boston, it's a huge benefit. In India, it's like, parking is park, So there you go, right? So there you go. That's part of how we look at it. It's a very integrated process. We like to use a single framework. It's called the employee value equation. So we have employees at the center of our process, and we have kind of customized, benefit programs based on segments of where they operate. So if kind of like consumer marketing data, like the different segments of a product, we look at our employees like consumers. It's helped our leaders get focused. It's helped our businesses get focused on how to think about benefits. I don't know if that's helpful, but.
And John, Aravind is talking about benefits that I think many employees expect, but also some that are kind of new as we think about how society is changing. One way that is of course, everything is getting more expensive. Money is very tight. It really struck me that you mentioned financial management and wellness, your own personal financial management as part of your well-being calculation, because part of the reason, the main reason we're all going to work, and maybe not the main one, much of the reason we're going to work is to make money so that we can live and exist in this life. And how do you see the responsibility of an employer to help employees manage their money, and how does SoFi do that?
Yeah, it's especially, I've been here since 2018. And when the pandemic started in 2020, it was very eye-opening for a lot of companies, the financial stress that their employees were facing. I think traditionally in employee benefits, when you think about financial wellness, it geared more towards the end of the journey with retirement. And when the pandemic hit, there were a lot of employees that were having unexpected expenses and not being able to, if their car breaks down or their fridge breaks. And then beyond that, for financial literacy, if you're in high school or college, they're not really teaching you financial management. And nowadays, you might get it on social media or your peers, but a lot of employees are looking to their employers for that guidance. So the biggest trend that we've seen is around financial education since 2020. And that is a broad term, but it can come in many different ways. It can come in coaching, so talking with a certified financial planner on what your situation looks like and ways to improve. It can be personalized tools, using money management, credit score monitoring, tools to help you manage your student debt, save for a 529 plan, and then content, so reading articles and attending webinars has been a big trend.
And do you find that, what's the feedback you get from employees about using those services, those benefits?
It's been the most rewarding part of my job. We'll do presentations and, oftentimes we're just talking with HR and benefits of rolling these programs out. So when we're doing presentations and we're rolling out programs where companies are contributing, let's say $100 to student loans, you can feel the tangible impact from the positive feedback that they give their employers.
So Barb, I know you said that you're the oddball here. I think you're not. You're the most fashionable among us, if nothing else, right?
Give me a sense of belonging already.
I'm glad, which is what any company wants to foster. But you do a lot of work in corporate social responsibility. How does that foster a sense of belonging and well-being among employees?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I just want to thank you all. Thank you for saving so many lives. I'm a first-gen college grad and greatly appreciate what you're doing, and I have 2 young adult children who need it. And my Tide Free is everything, and used my Gillette today, so thank you. But what I would say is that for us, building a culture of purpose is really what I'm focused on, and working very closely with my colleagues to do that on the HR side, on the DEI side, and on the business side. And what we believe is that actually creates the sense of belonging, the sense of empathy, the sense of purpose, the sense of fulfillment that we all need personally and individually, and that drives our teamwork and collaboration and our individual well-being. And so that's really kind of the drivers of what I'm trying to do and achieve. Yeah.
And you all recently won an award for a really exciting initiative you have with public health workers. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, sure. So
Congrats on the award.
Thank you. A big team worked on it. So we worked with the National Association of Community Health Workers. It was actually our DEI executive committee that came to us and said, well, what can we be doing that would be elevating our engagement internally and our work externally. And we basically said that our company actually helped to help this nonprofit to form over a 5-year period, and created funding and counsel to do that. And they formed in 2019, just when the pandemic hit. And it's a workforce that has been for hundreds of years providing value to communities. And during the pandemic, stakeholders from around the globe came together and realized that they couldn't be found, and they couldn't be supported, and they couldn't be deployed. And so they came up with a 75-page master document that for countries to help to unify the workforce and support and deploy the workforce in each country. And our partner was behind that. So what we did was we did a call. We made the pitch to our executives, and they were all in. And we made the call to all US employees to raise their hand to be all in for community health workers. And we created a 3-month innovation journey that they were a part of. And we asked them to join us if they cared about belonging and diversity, equity, inclusion internally, if they cared about health equity externally, and if they were willing to leave their egos and levels at the door, and if they were willing to come and learn and gain certain development opportunities that were aligned with some of the priorities at our company. And so we curated this experience for folks, and about 2,000 came to some of the initial experiences, and then about 200 joined us for this journey. And then what we asked them to do was kind of roll up their sleeves and place community health workers at the center, and ensure that we were there not to provide our opinions, but to actually facilitate theirs, as we worked on a design thinking exercise that helped them to design a digital platform to unify their workforce across the country for the first time. And that platform just launched this summer, so we're very proud.
Very good. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and a lot to learn there, I think, about how you can engage employees from start to finish, right? And really helping them help others, and in turn help themselves. It sounds cliche, but
yeah, it was surprisingly, we expected to achieve certain things, and we had metrics. We used the Gartner Employee Value Proposition Index, the Imperative Fulfillment Index, and certain belonging and empathy and other criteria that we measured at the beginning and at the end, and an understanding of our issues and of our partners' issues. But what we didn't anticipate was the personal transformation that happened as part of it. And so to your point, the qualitative and the anecdotal was profound. Yeah.
So Aravind, I know you spoke earlier about the cultural differences within P&G and how you all respond to that from a benefits perspective. But tell us some more about the other diverse needs that exist among your workforce and how you meet them.
So a good example is we've got about 50,000 of our employees globally are manufacturing employees. So that's an entire population that has a variety of needs. Some that are needs of people that are not in manufacturing, but some that are unique to the life and work life that they lead. They also are the folks that were there still working during the pandemic, right? While many of us I was very comfortably working at home, as my wife would tell you, probably too comfortably working at home. But there's a lot of folks who are working on the line, and so for them, we've had a lot of our employee engagement indexes and conversations and listening sessions, to your point, Hem, on listening. And the big lesson there is employees in manufacturing, in addition to the benefits that all of us want, also want great work-life balance. They want flexibility. A lot of employees that work in manufacturing work essentially 12-hour rapid rotation shifts. They work 2 or 3 days, 6 to 6, and then maybe take a couple of days off, and then they work night 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. They're doing that multiple times the course of a month. It's very tough on the body. It's hard to take your kids to soccer. It's really hard to do that. The schedule gets impacted. So they're asking for more flexibility. So we've been looking at that. We've added a lot of new flexible work options for folks. Work straight shifts, work 8-hour straight shifts. So things like that. Employees also are looking for things like better facilities. And you would say, well, you're Procter & Gamble, you should have nice plants. We do. Problem is, they're still plants, they're still factories. They don't feel necessarily like the beautiful offices that many of us work in, right? Where we have break rooms and we've got foosball tables, right? So we've got to fix that. So we're fixing a lot of that. Globally, we've got some great programs. We built a whole bunch of open air plant facilities. We remodeled a lot of them to give employees break spaces, upgraded dining services, provided gyms. You're going to say, you guys should have done this a long time ago. And the reality is, it's the pandemic that kind of, excuse my expression, it kicked us in the butt, right? We had to kind of go through this to kind of learn. And while we have, my leaders would tell you that we have great examples around the globe, but consistently, we need intervene here. And we're really proud of the work that's happening. Our employees are responding very well. Our culture survey indexes are at the highest they've been with our manufacturing population in years. So I'd say that's probably the big group. There are plenty other segments I can talk about, but I'd say that's the group that I feel the most pride with. So.
Excellent. Barb alluded earlier to how instrumental Moderna was throughout the pandemic. How did everything that you all were doing essentially on the front lines of this global health crisis affect the way that you approached employee well-being within the organization?
I think a large, something we realized very early was the mental pressure of knowing that people were manufacturing a product that was saving lives. And so every hour of work that didn't happen, lives would be lost. And so when going to work, normally you're kind of stressed about the regular stuff, but having that level of stress was really something that we knew that we had to get ahead of. Not that you can get ahead of, but we had to give our employees some opportunity to talk to someone to say, hey, how do I really think about this? And so it was not long into the pandemic, we introduced mental health therapy sessions for all of our employees and all their beneficiaries over the age of 6. And the reason we thought it was really important to include kids is because we had parents who were working longer than their normal shifts just because of the stress of what they were doing and the importance of it. So, I mean, that's just one example where we knew that we had to wrap our arms around an employee base that was really going above and beyond. And we still do get confused with much larger companies. We were 2,000 employees at the time. It was a small headcount, really trying to do something that had never been done before. And we're really proud of the accomplishments, but we knew that we had to really swing the pendulum a little this way in terms of what we were going to provide from a value proposition perspective to make sure that those employees understood not just the weight of what they were doing, but also understanding and recognizing the importance of the great stuff they were doing as well. So it wasn't just for every minute we don't do something, more people are losing their lives. You're like, well, for every minute you are doing something, you're saving lives. And so it's just kind of flipping the script a little bit.
Since then have added about 3,000 employees, correct?
Right.
Were you marketing sort of the benefits that you offered? What was drawing people in, essentially?
I'd love to say it was the benefits. I think, honestly, we're a hugely mission-driven company. And so we think we can change human health forever. And so people, particularly scientists, really want to be part of that journey. And so I think that's the primary driver for why people wanted to join. We also went from being this small company that nobody knew about in Cambridge to this global brand. And I think that was also part of it, but we also knew we had to do the right thing for our employees. And of course, we're competing in a tough space, pharmaceuticals, biotech. There's lots of great companies out there. And so we had to make sure we were giving the best of the best. And we've hired employees from Google and lots of the West Coast tech firms, and they say our benefits are better than they've had it over there. So we've been really, really mindful of making sure that we provide best-in-class benefits.
Now, Hem, I want to stay with you just for a little bit longer, because I know that one of the things you talk about a lot is how compensation is just one piece of the puzzle. And in many cases, employees are looking for other things beyond that, right? So even if salary is not what's drawing them in, it's all the other benefits that you're offering, which to some may seem a little contradictory, right? It's like, what? But tell us how that works and why.
Yeah, it's funny. So before I joined Moderna, I spent 18 years in executive compensation consulting. So not just this tiny sliver of compensation, but executive compensation. So fortunately, I have Jeff and team who know all about benefits, because I know next to nothing about them. But I spent 18 years thinking solely about base salary and bonus and equity. And I had this huge aha moment when I came to Moderna, because nobody ever says thank you for those things. They earned those, right? Like, why would they say thank you? But when you provide best-in-class benefits, when you have great healthcare, when you offer mental health support, when you have a lifestyle spending, all these things, people really value. They're like, the company cares about me. They're not just giving me a salary or bonus or an equity grant. And so that was a big kind of mental shift for me in terms of, I'd always just devalued. I was like, benefits is 401k. And it's just so much more than that. So that was a real realization that I came to.
So John, I'm curious how what Hem is saying would land. I know you work with a very intergenerational workforce. I'm curious because you look at TikTok, for instance, right? There's so many Gen Zers who are like, work is better be glad to have me, right, in the room. And there's really about getting what they can. I don't want to say I'm like borderline Gen Z, so I'm not trying to say bad things about Gen Z, but essentially, I think our mindset shifts, right, about how much we're giving into our jobs versus what we're getting out of it. But do you see that show up? Do you see in any sense when you look at the older generation of your workforce versus the younger, are there different attitudes about this idea of compensation being or not being the only thing that I'm here for?
Yes. I see it the most. So I talk more broadly about financial education and things that are for all employees. I also mentioned, so student debt benefits are, becoming very popular as student debt becomes pervasive in the United States. So a lot of times when we're talking to organizations, student debt does fall to the younger generation, the Gen Z, the millennials. And if they're rolling out a program that only is geared towards them and perhaps, they're paying extra money to these employees, then the biggest fear is, well, what about all the other employees? If 1 in 5 employees have student debt, what about the 4 out of other 5? And so that is a legitimate fear that a lot of our HR and benefits contacts have. And I think what helps them get past that is, offering these very targeted and impactful benefits while also supplementing them with other things that other generations can benefit from. It's also a bit of a twisted thing to, you're not getting money towards your student loan because you don't have a student loan. Do you wish you had a student loan? So, yeah.
You paid off your student loans already.
That is another thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of the feedback we hear there is like, this is such a great thing that I wish I had when I had student debt versus this is unfair.
What do you hear about what employees would like to see change or improve about their benefits?
That's a good question that certainly differs across all industries and organizations. So we did a white paper earlier this year with Site Research where they interviewed over 750 HR leaders and 750 employees. And some of the notable stats from that, 86% of employees are stressed about their finances, spending 8 hours a week, 4 of those at work. The second notable one was 2 out of 3 employees cannot save for an unexpected expense. And we have even law firm partners where you're making a good salary, but you have a lot of student loans, you rack up credit card debt, you're living in New York, and emergency savings for them doesn't exist either. And then the third stat was around 76% of employees aren't taking advantage of their retirement match because of their student debt. So Congress, ironically, actually the IRS passed Secure 2.0, the end of 2022, that as of this year, companies can now treat student loan payments as qualified retirement contributions. So that has been a very popular benefit this year, especially with economic uncertainty, budgets are tight, leveraging that existing 401k budget. So that's kind of the demand we're seeing around financial education, emergency savings, and student debt support.
So Barb, all of you have discussed how essentially people are having more voice, getting more voice in what they want out of their benefits packages at work. Looking kind of the other way around from the top down, how can leadership really model behavior essentially to show people what is possible and to encourage people to speak up more about what they want?
Sure. I think that, everything you were saying around kind of the tangible pieces, the compensation, that piece of it, isn't really what I hear about, right? What I hear about is the team they want to be on, who they'd like to work with, the kind of culture there is on their team, the opportunities they're given to connect with each other internally and outside of the organization. One of the really important drivers of the innovation journey that we did was we basically said we are aiming to connect people across levels, geographies, backgrounds, to really just ensure that the manufacturing folks and the quality folks and that the executives were all together, sleeves rolled human beings doing this. And I think that was actually the magic, that people were able to connect together as human beings and share the mission that they care so deeply about, and actually be able to do something that's meaningful together around that.
If I can add. I mean, at some point, altruism and good thinking people want to do the right thing, but at some point in the business world, you've got to tie rewards to that. So we've chosen, and we did this about 25 years ago, we started tying our senior leader compensation to culture survey scores. So it was a bold move then. We have 25 years of data now that would tell you that it's worked. We've got a lot of the engagement index work that we do. You've got to maintain certain scores for a facility to move forward on manufacturing progression, for an organizational leader to receive a certain compensation bonus. It can drive other behaviors, so we got to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, then we're chasing numbers, right? We're chasing numbers, which causes people to overdo things. But as long as you've got some balance here and there, and that's why this EVE framework I was telling you about helps us a little bit. It gives us some motivation factors. But I keep going back to what Ham said about listening. I gotta tell you, just getting leaders to listen. I mean, I can't get my 2 kids to listen. Trying to get leaders to listen is very difficult. I mean, you've got to get real life stories. The question you asked about how do you get them to role model? We've got to get leaders to actually be the well-being spokespersons. We have, each of our programs now has a executive sponsor. So our CEO for our grooming division, he'll be thrilled to hear that I said this. He's now the sponsor for all of Procter & Gamble globally for well-being. So guess what he has to do? Sleep on time. He's got to role model all of those benefits and behaviors that we're all asking him to do. So, and then he's got to talk about it. So again, accountability is the other piece I'd add to what you're saying. Long story, but that's kind of...
Do you think? Oh no, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to add that they're having a personal experience themselves can bring them a long way toward remembering what they believed in that one meeting where we asked them to get behind this, right?
Do you have any? It's okay if you don't, but are there any stories of when that happened in your experience?
Yeah, I would say the leaders that engaged in this particular journey, and I think in prior journeys as well, where we really tried to have leaders have experiences alongside a really diverse group of colleagues that is somewhat of a transformational experience. I've had folks go from being the detractor on the DEI plan to being the ambassador of the DEI plan. So I think just giving folks the ability to actually live it right alongside colleagues and just understand it a little more deeply, then they see not only the personal connection but the true business value.
And of course, like that can happen through anything from DEI training to maybe someone gets called out or called in for an incident that happens. And Aravind, the question that I was going to ask you was essentially, are there things that companies can be doing to train their leaders better because maybe they don't know how to model that behavior?
Yeah. So there's a lot. There's a lot to train. I think first of all, having some sort of a framework, we've chosen one, having some sort of framework tied to rewards and accountability. So you got to check that first because people need to have some skin in the game. This scorecard, scorecards, that kind of stuff, metrics. The second thing I'd say is there's the personal stories aspect of it, storytelling. We've got a lot more. It took us a while, but we're getting a lot better at storytelling. We've got to get employees telling their stories to our leaders. We're expecting our leaders. I just came here from a panel in Cincinnati where we're literally talking to our leaders, telling them, you've got to visit your sites. I mean, it sounds weird telling your leader to go visit their site, but you've got to tell them to do that sometimes because while they're busy, that's important. So that connection is important. And then we've got a lot of training. I could give you a list of the kinds of training we ask people to do, but I'd say that personal touch, being there, and that reward piece is kind of what we're really primarily focusing on. Yeah.
So hearkening back to the listening piece of what you do, Moderna is implementing LSAs. I don't want to get lifestyle spending accounts. Yes, where employees can decide how they want to allocate their benefits. Tell us more about how that works.
Yeah, so we give employees a dollar amount that they get to use every month to spend on their own personal well-being. And so when we first rolled out the plan, we were quite specific about the types of things that you could spend this money on. And it was really the things that you would expect, like a gym membership or gym equipment or dietary supplement, whatever it may be. And one of the learnings from year one of rolling out the program is, one, people valued it. They absolutely loved it. But the second thing was they would constantly, whenever anyone learned what I did, so when you tell someone what you do and you say total rewards, they have no idea what that means. And then you say comp and ben and they say, I have a question for you. Why can't I buy sneakers with my lifestyle spending account? Not a word of a lie. I must have got that question like 8 times. People can now buy sneakers because it's part of that. They say running is how they think about their well-being. And so we sort of started with a very narrow definition of what people could spend their money on. And now we've gone to a much broader one. I literally just the other day, one of the admin assistants said, did you know that I could go to Sephora and buy makeup? And I was like, it wasn't exactly why we introduced the program, but not for me to define well-being for you. If that's how you want to spend the money, you can. But I know it's probably one of the most spoken about and valued programs that we have. Again, it's a tiny portion. When you think about someone's base salary, it's not even a percent of that, but they feel like it's free money that the company is giving them to spend on a specific purpose. And so I think that's why it's so valued.
And that it helps, because it's kind of like you think about the unlimited vacation, for instance. So many people I know who are like, yeah, we get unlimited vacation, but I never take it. But if you know that it's finite, or if you know that, okay, this is not just money, this is money you have to spend on something to your well-being, that people tend to do it more.
It's like a gift. And so it's like when people give you a voucher, you say, well, I wouldn't otherwise go out and buy this thing, but now that I have this thing, I will. And so I think that's a lot of the mindset. And I think again, people talk about it internally, and I've heard people at lunch and say, what did you spend your money on this month? And so it just kind of garners and generates a little bit of attention. And again, people feel like it's something that we're doing, which we're doing because we value them and we want them to think about things outside of work.
What do you spend yours on?
I told you I like those.
That's why I changed the plan. It was very self-interested. No, I get home food delivery, so that it actually helps me with my marriage because my wife doesn't have to do it, and I have to worry about any of the cooking. So.
Excellent. So John, I know I asked, about what your employees would like to see change or improve, but what about you? When you think about future thinking and how you would like maybe SoFi's benefits to look 10 years from now even, what comes to mind?
Yeah, as a company, that's a loaded question. Being a financially driven company, it is top of mind for a lot of employees. And the 401k match is a big thing for all employees. I think the company, I'm less on the benefits side and more working with organizations of delivering SoFi's products. But I'm trying to think if anything else really comes to mind.
Or anything, even you, you work there, right? Yeah. Are there things that do you wish you could have an LSA to go buy some sneakers?
I do. And that, or makeup, my wife would love that. I would say the lifestyle account, we do come across that, especially with other organizations. And, with us, we're more focused on tuition reimbursement and student loan contributions, and those are tax-free up to $5,250. The lifestyle accounts, some organizations we see do, $5,000, and it can go towards your student loans, it can go towards Sephora, but the issues are, that is taxable. But I think ideally in the future, that becomes the norm, and hopefully there's some incentive there for more companies to offer that. So we can all go to Sephora or get some shoes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So since we're talking about spouses, I'm just going to take the bait here, because Aravind, you mentioned your wife is a therapist. Does she ever give you advice or offer, yeah, you're like, yes, all the time.
Stop recording right now. Yeah.
But about things that could improve employee mental health.
Yeah, sure.
And you can tell her.
Okay. She'll be honored to hear that. No, I think she does. She hears some of the stuff I say, and it's quite interesting. But she worked, not talking about wife here, but she has a private practice now, but she used to she did EAP work before, so she's familiar with kind of some of the corporate issues and some of the issues employees have. I think the bulk of the from practitioners like her is have the service available, have qualified people available, I love how you have 26 sessions, whatever, the number of sessions a year, have that benefit available. We've got a pretty decent number too. I think just having qualified professionals on a regular basis. The one area that we haven't taken a full advantage of, which we're starting to, is coaching. We have not really used professionals for that. We've used, managers like me, to do that. We're starting to bring in professionals into that area. I think that's a underutilized skill set that a lot of our therapists and practitioners have, skill that we're not using. So I'd love to see us do more of that. I think our especially our young folks would really benefit from that. So, yeah.
And Barb, or did you want to add something?
I just said amazing.
Well, I agree. Are there any, I did a panel last year, and it was about community health partnerships, actually, but it was also, we touched on how healthcare workers need to integrate so many other disciplines into their works, things like doulas, right, and midwives to help with the maternal health care crisis. Are there any community partners that you would love to see organizations reach into more to improve employee well-being?
Can you say that again?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So be it therapists, or maybe it's social workers, or maybe it's even, I don't know, like pastry chefs to come in and teach employees. Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So I told you I'm a non-expert. So I would say I love the coaching idea. I think it's that could be a game changer myself. And I've gone through that coaching certification training and all of that, and have found it incredibly valuable. I also, in addition to leading areas of corporate responsibility, I ran our women's network, and I started every meeting with mindfulness. And we brought in folks. Our company actually has folks who you can schedule to bring into your meeting to do that, and it was really very valuable. But I also think just as a flip of that the work that we did with the community health worker population is it's not just the well-being and mental health of our employees, but one profound takeaway from the innovation journey was the mental health of those folks in the community. So really thinking through when we partner with organizations outside of our own walls and in the community, changing our model and ensuring that we can support programs that support their mental health and well-being.
Beautiful. Also amazing. Well, Barb, Aravind, John, and Hem, thank you all so much. Really appreciate it.